guest this evening has been drumming since he was 4 years old. He's influenced by heavy-hitting drummers like John Bonham of Led Zeppelin, Alex Van Halen, Dave Lombardo of Slayer, and everything. One of the Misfits right now. My guest pounded the skins for many local Pacific Northwest metal and punk bands. He is the drummer for Doyle, wearing my Monster Man shirt right here. He has a fantastic YouTube channel filled with professional drum covers, and in his spare time, he practices law. Imagine that. I love dichotomy. So please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Mr. Wade Murff. Wade.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Awesome. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
All right.
Doing good. Yeah.
Thanks for joining me and being a part of this show and the tour. And I can't wait to dive into everything that you've been up to and hear about some new things and maybe some old things and everything I can think of for the next 26 minutes.
Cool. Good to see you, man.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good seeing you. And like we were talking about pre-show, I've had a chance to see you drum. Actually, I saw you with Doyle twice in 2018 here in Seattle. But I also forgot to mention that I saw you last year with the Jenna Tortures.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about that gig? Like, how did you get involved with the band? Because I know you're helping them out when their drummer had some other, things going on.
Yeah. Well, I had just relocated to Los Angeles again, and I was sitting on the bed with my girlfriend, and I got a text from Chris, the drummer of Jenna Tortures. And he's like, so what's your schedule look like for, such and such dates? It was about 4 weeks. And he just, he told me that he wasn't going to be able to make a tour with them. They were going out for about a month. And I told him I could do it. I mean, Doyle didn't really have anything going on at the time. And so, that's how that came along. I met the guitar player, Eric Griffin. We all met up at NAMM down there in Anaheim. And it was just a really, really good time. It was kind of cool because, it's more of the industrial style music and stuff like that. I came up on Ministry and Nine Inch Nails myself. So
awesome.
And then I remember in the 90s hearing Jenna Tortures. So it was kind of cool to meet Jen. Yeah.
I can imagine. I remember seeing the first album that they put out, and she kind of scared me. To be honest.
I think, yeah, she scared me too, dude. Yeah, we were opening for Lords of Acid, and that's another one of those bands. Just going into the music store in my days in Portland, I would see their album covers and just be like, "What the heck is this?" But it was that dancey electric Hellfire Club. Heaviness, and it was really cool to meet them. Man, they're a class act. I like those guys.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you, so like as this exchange was happening, that you're going to jump onto the tour and help them out, how many days did you have to learn their set, and did you get a chance to rehearse with them for a few days before you hit the road with Lords of Acid, or what was that timeline like?
Yeah, it was really crazy, man. It's just serendipitous. But so when I first moved down here, one of my major concerns about moving, because I lived in Los Angeles for a while, but I went back to Oregon to go through schooling and stuff like that. And I ended up in Portland, and I had a really good rehearsal spot up there. I was in that building for a long time. And that was my major concern, was coming down here and not being able to afford a place or not finding a place. And I ended up, through my friend Mel, meeting the bass player for the guys in Orgy, that band. And so they had a practice space here in North Hollywood. It's just a couple miles away. So I set my drums up in there, and, they basically only practice when they're about to go on the road. So I had free reign of that room. And so what had happened was that Jen was going to come to Los Angeles and meet up with Eric and the rest of the band, and they were going to borrow Orgy's practice room before. So not only did Chris call me, but I was already set up in the practice room. So it was like, it was really easy. Jen flew out for a day, and we worked through the songs. I had, this industry, I think any part of the entertainment industry, it's always very last minute. And it's not because we're a bunch of lazy asses, although you can make the argument that we're very last minute, but it's just that things just get pushed way to the last minute for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what, that's what happened with this. That's what happened with Doyle. And so I'm used to it. I'm used to learning songs really quick. Learned them on the fly, went out and did the shows. It was great. It was really
Wow. Wow. I remember for myself when I saw that you were going to be, that Seattle was one of the days that you were drumming on with them, that I was happy because the venue you were going to be at had a photo pit.
Because, I know. Yeah. I forget what that place is called. That was actually a really cool venue.
Showbox Soto.
Okay. Yeah. It's huge.
Yep. Yeah. It's it holds like over maybe 1,200 people. And yeah, everything's like professionally done there. Not that the other places, I don't want to be throwing shade on the other place, but
right.
For someone like me who's 5'5" and old, I need a photo pit. I can't be in there with the young guys that are 22 and going crazy. It doesn't work too well for me. But that place, I said, I'm going to get some good shots of these guys, and I did. So I was super happy about it.
The stage is great. It's not too high up, and it's wide. There's plenty of room. It was great.
Awesome. So let's kind of go back a little bit. And so I know that you're a Pacific Northwest guy. So maybe you can talk a little bit about where you were born and, what young Wade was like coming up.
Yeah, I was born in Southern Oregon. It's a place called Grants Pass. It's just kind of clinging to I-5 right before you get into California. Small town, a great place to grow up. I had very tolerant neighbors and very understanding and open parents. So I had a drum set in my room and I was able to play every day. It was my escape, man. And it's like, had some, eventually started a couple metal bands there in Grants Pass and then moved to Portland, spent some time in Eugene. But that was, I had to go to the biggest music center there was that I could afford. Seattle was right there, but that was in Washington. I wanted to be in Portland, and I ended up, man, if you go, I think if you go into any city and you have a good work ethic and you've got some good equipment and you can keep time, you're gonna be a busy drummer because everybody's always looking for a drummer. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But Portland, when I got up there, it was like mid '90s. So, I'm 45. I just barely missed the grunge explosion, coming out of Seattle, the early '90s and the mid to early '90s, or mid '80s to early '90s. Sorry. So, like going into clubs like Satyricon in Portland, the Nirvana posters were still on the wall. Everything was still warm. And so it was like at this in-between time, I got approached to do these really cool projects in Portland. They didn't ultimately go anywhere, but they were big locally. And it was way different than what had broke big in Seattle. It was a good time. I missed one wave, but I was able to be a part of that rich Portland scene.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think for a lot of folks that maybe have not been to the Northwest, meaning Portland and Seattle, they kind of lump us together thinking that both cities are the same, and they're not. They're very
not
distinctly different. Totally different vibe to each city.
That's right. Because I'm in an East Coast band with Doyle, and those guys, they still don't I tell them, look, I lived in Portland. I'm not from Seattle. And they keep telling me, dude, you are so Seattle. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. They really do think it's the same city. They think it's all one big city or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's again for us that are local to the area, we I was like, no, not even close. And and if you don't pick up on that, then that's on you. Yeah, we know they have their own flavor for sure. I wanted to ask you, as you were talking about that you were starting off playing drums very young age, and then when you moved to Portland and you had a chance to be fairly busy. So were you self-taught? Were you taking lessons, both?
There was a little period where my dad sat me on his lap and tried to show me how to hold the sticks and stuff like that. He drummed a little bit when he was in school. But man, other than that, it was a self-taught situation. He had his stereo. My room was upstairs. He had his stereo downstairs. It was a really cool old Pioneer turntable, great amp and everything. So what he did is he wired it so there was a jack behind my drum set upstairs. It was a very cool thing for a dad to do. So I'd go down and drop the needle on a Led Zeppelin record and then run up the stairs, put my headphones on, and I just learned to other drummers, you know, and it's like, I grew up on his record collection. It was a lot of Rolling Stones, Cream, Led Zeppelin, stuff like that. And Van Halen, of course, was the first real big band that I kind of feel like I discovered myself, I guess. But that's the way I learned, was playing to other people's music. And, you know, when you think about it, like if anybody's heard of the School of Rock, they have them in all the major US cities. That is the whole basis of that school. It's like, let's teach kids other people's songs. And it's, I mean, it's such an ingenious thing to do for a school, because that is a great way to learn. I still do it. I love it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I was, when I started playing guitar, my parents had signed me up for lessons, but I was already into a lot of 80s metal bands anyway. So a lot of times I'm spinning the records, I got my guitar, I'm trying to learn a riff, learn a solo, learn something. And eventually, then I did lessons for maybe 2.5 years. And I just really want to kind of go off on my own and kind of find my own voice. And a lot of that still involved me listening to other people's music and trying to, you know, learn it and mimic it and then kind of fold it into whatever I'm trying to express. And then move from there. So there's definitely something to be said for someone who is self-taught. I know sometimes schooled musicians kind of look down on those folks, and I feel that's really not the way to be, because there's something good from both ends. If you're schooled and if you're not schooled, there's something that's really valuable from both ends of that spectrum.
I agree. You know, I had just two things on that. You know, I had some, like in high school, we did do drum corps style stuff. So I had some technical reading. As far as rock drumming though goes, man, that was straight out of my dad's record collection. But I was just talking to somebody about that, you know, the getting down on self-taught people. We were joking about Lars Ulrich, you know, Metallica, and
sure,
there's a lot of people that argue the guy just keeps getting worse at drums, and it's a funny thing. But here's the important part to remember, is that that guy has influenced so many drummers. Like, he's influenced at least a couple generations of drummers. I remember coming up, and when I first heard Metallica, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You know, it wasn't like anything I had ever heard. It was like, because first came Van Halen, and yes, this is awesome. Metallica was way heavier, and listen to that guy's kick drum. That thing sounds crazy. And so, you know, it's like, looking back on it, you just can't deny. And he's a completely self-taught drummer. There's no school whatsoever. And I've talked to really good musicians that have, like, they've jammed with, you know, MIT type drummers, and the drummers are great. They've got great chops and everything, but they don't have a certain feel or a certain jamminess that, I don't know.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I played in bands in high school and college, and you could always tell. And again, for me, not really having a strong theory background myself as a guitar player, my deficit is, you know, reading music. But then my plus, or my strength, was playing with feel and showing my emotion. And then they couldn't do that. They're very sterile. So we kind of had to find that middle ground between all of us. And it's like, this is what works, as long as we kind of agree with it.
Right.
And you're exactly right. I mean, I cut my teeth on those early Metallica records trying to learn all those riffs and listening to Lars's drumming. And I still remember James talking way back when they first got together in California, that he had Lars's kit was some sort of like a Muppet kit, and he had like one cymbal, and every time he hit it, it fell over or something. And it's like, I can totally relate to that kind of thing. Totally relate to it.
It comes down to songs, dude.
Yeah.
Is the song good? Does it sound good? Does it make you tap your feet? You know, it's like, sometimes an MIT drummer can do that. Sometimes a self-taught drummer can do that. It just really, that's why bands, you know, when people get together and do a group like that, it's not to sound hokey or anything, but it really is kind of a magical thing when you get, like I mentioned Led Zeppelin a lot, because they were just one of those, like, amazing things that happened in the history of music. But there's so much chemistry with those guys, you know, and just some of those rhythms that they churned out. None of it is perfect. It's perfect within itself, though. You know, it's not mathematically perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I want to do, I think, since we're talking so much about drumming and being self-taught or lessons and all this kind of stuff, I want to talk about your drum channel on YouTube. But what I want to do is, for everybody out there, Wade's got this amazing drum cover YouTube channel that I've been watching for a long time, and we have a clip that we're going to show. So,
cool.
The folks down in LA, the Alice folks, if you could cue up that, you have showmanship. I'm actually really stunned to find out that you don't have a really schooled background in terms of your drumming, because watching these videos, I would have assumed that you did. Your time is so on with your drumming, so that's just amazing. When you record something like that, how much time does it take you to do the whole process of doing a drum cover video?
It depends on the song, obviously. Like learning the song, that's the key part. Everything else just comes down to workflow. Like with photography, I'm sure you've got a workflow. A certain event happens, and then you have ways of processing the work and creating the content. But you have to have the image. You have to get the good image. You have to have because garbage in, garbage out, right? There's certain ways. So I got to learn the song first. It depends on the song. If it's something like that Slipknot song that I've heard a lot, it doesn't take very long because I've got it up here. There might be drumming any instruments, just a coordination thing. You got to muscle memory, figure out the lick, and just learn it. And then you really have to match the original drummer. And so that's the cool thing about these drum covers, is that you get this chance to sit in that drummer's throne and try to match his style, for that particular song. And a lot of newer metal songs, a lot of pop and all that stuff is done to exact click tracks, and so it's kind of easier to piece it together. But for a band like Slipknot that doesn't necessarily, or Korn, these guys don't use click tracks necessarily. And so there's a lot of that stuff, like the drummer will speed up on this one part, or these couple notes are hanging behind. So you learn the song, and then I just record everything there. I use Dropbox a lot because I don't want to sit out in the sweaty room and process anything. I bring it home, and I'll put some effects on things and make it sound great. And then I'll upload everything out of my cameras onto Final Cut Pro, and then put the finished, line up the music and everything, and then that's it. That's how I do it. But it's a learning process. It's like with photography equipment, there's always new software coming out, and sometimes there's a ghost in the machine, and you're like, I have no idea why this is behaving this way right now. But it takes a while. It takes at least 5 hours to put one together, because it's just a lot of concentrating, a lot of focusing, a lot of waiting. I don't have a super computer. I've got a MacBook, so it can only process so much information. But I really enjoy the process. And like you were saying, it's like, I encourage other drummers to take it up. It's a great way to just improve your drumming. And it's a great way to let people know that you're out there. And if you're looking for work as a drummer, I've heard this before, and I've also experienced it personally. If you're a drummer and you're, deciding whether or not to put up content on the internet, maybe you're like thinking, no one's going to know, no one's looking. Like the certain band that I'm tagging is not looking. They are watching. I guarantee it. They're watching. I mean, it's like not always, but just know that they are. I've heard it. I've heard people say it before, and I've also experienced it. So
it's good advice. It's kind of like you always want to put your best foot forward, because you never know who actually is taking the time, in their home watching YouTube and say, I heard about this guy, someone recommended this drummer, and they're going through his channel and they're going through everything and saying, well, is he a hack or is he someone we want to hire?
Yeah.
We've got about 4 minutes left, so I want to make sure I have some time to talk to you about your other vocation as a lawyer and attorney.
Yeah.
So speak about your practice, please.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like when I moved back from Los Angeles to Oregon, I went up there and got my degree in economics. And the great thing about going back to school at a later age is that if you really apply yourself, you're like, all I have to do is get A's. This is easy. So I got really good grades, dude. And I was looking for something to match my economics degree. And one of my tutors, math tutors, mentioned law. Checked it out. I ended up going to law school. I got way into intellectual property because it helped artists like us. You know, I was realizing trademark, copyright, man, these are all entertainment area.
Mm-hmm.
And a job, I know we only have a couple minutes, but I had a job in LA back in the early 2000s. It was a place called The Firm, and it was an artist management agency. And a lot of those artist managers were lawyers. If they weren't a lawyer, we had them walking around, and it just came full circle for me. I was like, man, this is what I want to do, even though I'm back drumming primarily. And I do keep some of my clients in my law practice. It's just one of those things. I'm never going to let it go because I know it's a tool that I can use to help not only myself, but other artists and other creative types. So I really enjoy the practice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I'm sure there's probably even some people that are, in the chat room right now that might be musicians, other guests, other people that are watching this, or even if they're watching the stream later as it's been saved, that they're going to say, wait a minute, did that guy just say he does what as a lawyer and intellectual properties? And I'm having an issue. I should reach out to him. So this is a great time to plug. So how do people find you for your law stuff, for your drum stuff, everything out there?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll start with the drum stuff on Instagram. It's Wade Murff. Just do a search for me. WADE. My last name is Murf. MURFF. I can also be found on YouTube. Just look up Wade Murff. It's my namesake, I think. And then for my legal stuff, you can find me. I have a website out there. It's just wademurfflaw.com.
Perfect. So again, everybody out there, if you look for Wade Murff on social media, and if you're looking for some legal help, wademurfflaw.com. And Wade, it's been such a pleasure getting a chance to really get to know you. And I hope that once things get back to where, bands are touring and brick and mortar tours are back in fashion again, that you come back up to Seattle with Doyle, with whoever, and then we can actually sit down, maybe have a drink together face to face. And thank you so much for taking the time today.
Good to see you, man. Yeah.
All right.
Fun.
Take care.
Cool. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.